Well, hey there, buddy.
Howdy, howdy, howdy.
So, uh, for everyone who's watching, which I think, we actually got a couple people, and I posted it in a couple places. This is going
Yeah,
to be a new thing that I'm going to start doing. Maybe once every other week, maybe even just once a month. It just depends because I don't want to burn through uh, everyone that I have to do this with. Um,
all
but
three of us.
yeah, but it's basically just basically me and for the people who don't know, my name's Dylan. I run um, how many games am I running at this point? 4 days a week. One,
Double digits?
yeah, it's one every Monday, a different one every other Tuesday, a different one every other Wednesday, a different one every other Thursday, and then Friday. So 8 games. So not quite to double digits yet.
We'll get you there.
Yeah. Um, and I've been doing it professionally for about a year, but I've been running games for about 6 years, I think, 6 or 7 years, pretty much nonstop. And David here has been in those games every single year, nonstop for 6 years.
Yeah, thereabouts about 6 years.
So, um,
A little over, I
oh,
think.
ooh, that's a big old spider right by me. Everyone about to just almost got to watch me scream.
I hope you're wearing pants, at least brown ones.
Damn, that's way bigger than I was expecting. I wasn't expecting anything. So other news in regards to the channel that I know I spoke with a couple different groups about, and I've actually been having a guy I play a game with asking me about this. But for everyone, excuse me, for everyone who turns into the channel, you know that I run a game every Friday. Didn't yesterday, and I just re-upped my social media, so I should actually be able to, post something that helps keep track of when games are and aren't going to happen. Um, but two of my Vampire the Masquerade games that I run are going to start being streamed. One of which, David here, is a player in. So I will have a game being streamed on Twitch. Going forward, there will be a game every Friday, every other Wednesday, and every other Thursday.
God help
Um,
our coterie, and God help you.
yep. The vampire game is probably my biggest project right now, and it's working out well in that it's currently it's three different groups that are all coteries, which is the Vampire Masquerade equivalent to like the D&D party, the Pathfinder party, and literally every other game. But there's three different groups that are all in the same city. So like stuff that happens to Group A and that they do during their game can affect Group B. So it adds a bit of randomness and a bit of a real feel to the city. But
Yeah, and for all the other coteries that will be watching this right now, don't be cheating. Don't be looking at what else we doing out there.
you know, no, trust me, all the other coteries have their own things to deal with. Um, but so for tonight, I asked David here since he's been playing with me since when did we play that for our first game together? 2000
Uh, that's whenever we had, shoot, what's his face?
yes.
West. That's
Yeah,
whenever we had
Robert
West.
Robert West was both of our first GMs
It's
or
at
DM.
least because he had more experience than us, and plus we were
Yeah, I had
both
no
willing to
experience.
shell out
Yeah,
everything just to even start.
yeah. So Well, so let's start. That's a good place to start. Well, first, why don't you tell? I mean, I know most things I need to know about you, but tell
Shh.
everyone who you are.
You don't know the half of it. Well, anyways, we'll start off there. Howdy, my name is David House. I have social experiences with this fella here for six, probably about 8 years now, give or take. And yeah, I have a little bit of experience of everything. I've only been playing D&D, any tabletops for about the 6 years that me and Dylan have actually first started, and then from there been experimenting with different systems, and he's either strong armed me or coerced me one way or another to try out another one. So I've been his guinea pig from ever since. Um, yeah,
That's a fair statement.
eventually I will be not trying to tag myself out there, but eventually whenever I upgrade my computer, hopefully I'll be streaming myself as well and helping out Dylan as far as bringing in a bigger community as well.
Yeah,
If I even if I even get a community.
but yeah, I mean, me and you started. Yeah, it was Robert West was the first GM that the two of us had together, and that was. I mean, uh, I can talk about my experience with that game, but uh,
No, don't do it. We don't have the time for it.
I mean that was your first tabletop game too. Was yeah, sitting in my living room with a guy we worked with, who, to his credit, I think was making up half the rules as he went, because I think we just kind of grabbed anything we could find fifth edition and pretty much shoved it all at him and said, "Here, run a game." And I think if I remember right, I think he had played fourth edition and then stopped, which I know there was a lot of people who did that. Um,
Yeah, no, it definitely turned out pretty well. At least for what we gave him for what short amount of time.
yeah, it was
And
it was a very haphazardly put together game, but he did a good
it was
job.
definitely not it was definitely not the worst.
No, but I remember, yeah, it was just us, some guys we worked with, and not to say anything bad about anyone, but they're just the way like some of the people came into that game with a very. Uh, I think me and you were like so excited to play and like
Yeah,
excited to do this, and some of the other people just kind of came in without the
there
same
was
level of enthusiasm or like the same
enthusiasm. Yep.
tone. And not to say, I think that's partially, at least I think how much that bothered me kind of is more of a me issue. But
Mm, I
I
don't.
gotta like, I think I've
I don't
talked
know.
to. Oh, go ahead.
I was about to say I don't know the interactions between you and this other person that we may be both thinking about, but was that him tagging along or you strong arming? Kind of like you uh,
I don't know. I can't.
coerced me.
I think that's. I can't remember. It could very well could have been that. Although I don't. I
I
don't
think,
remember.
in my opinion, I think he was just tagging along as
Yeah.
far as with one of the other players.
Yeah. And I mean that happens all the time. I've had. I mean, luckily that is one of the things I'll say in regards to. I mean, we've had a pretty fixed group for a while, and then I've noticed it when it comes to like running games professionally. If people are by paying to play, they're investing into the game. So I haven't run into really anyone who shows up and is openly uncooperative or like creates a character that's openly problematic or even what's a better word? Because I don't think he was. I don't think the person that kind of that we had in that first game with us was his intent, as much as he was more interested in solely his enjoyment. Which, I mean, that happens. That's a very video game aspect to come into tabletop games with. You play a video game. You're playing it for you. You're playing it for your enjoyment. Whereas tabletop games, it's everyone's enjoyment. So I
Yeah,
remember.
unfortunately, after that, I didn't have much interaction with the fella up until I think maybe a little confrontation between him and the DM later on. But
Yeah. Oh, yep.
uh,
I remember that at work.
yep,
Yeah. Yeah.
yep, we went for a walk.
Yeah. Um, but like I remember just how excited me and you were to play, and then
Oh yeah,
after just how those first games went, I was so disenamored with the game. Like I genuinely don't think I was going to keep playing. And I think it was me and you who were talking, and you said, "Well, like, we'll try it with just our group." And then I did, and still, like, I enjoyed it, but it seemed very. There was things I just didn't enjoy, and I've talked to like Rob about this. And again, I don't think he did anything wrong. But then I remember, I think it was you again who told me, like, well, why don't you try running it? Like, why don't you try telling the story? And I did. And you were, again, I think, the first player, you and Rob and a couple others. And I've been doing it every week since, at least once a week ever
I
since.
can't remember. I gotta put it with characters. Was that with
Oh,
Tobias?
the first group, yeah, I think our very first group was you had left. You left because
Right
we were both
after
in the military.
during the Bum King.
Yes, during the game that me and you were playing in our very first game, where you were playing a hobo destined for greatness or something, destined for something. I don't know if greatness is the word, um, but you
Apparently,
left.
he what you told me he was pretty crucial later on after I had left.
Yeah, but yeah, kind of fell apart with just the military aspect because we were all in the military at the time, so everyone was leaving, or at least you left.
Yeah,
Um,
and then we tried to get as far as internet connection. As far
mhm.
it was really shoddy where I was up
Yes,
until at this
so
point.
then I started running a game without you. This is when you had first left and you were still getting set up outside of the military. And it was the Tyranny of Dragons game, and I was running it with my wife and
Kano,
Rob. Nope, Kano. I didn't even
nope.
meet Ryan until I came to this dude. This is while I was still in Maryland. So it was Rob, my wife, and a couple others. I think Morena, and a couple others. And that game just ended up becoming so devolved because of character choices, meaning like kind of similarly, and it was super frustrating, especially as, and I think a part of it was me as a new GM not knowing how to handle it. But someone made a bard who the rest of the party hated to the point where he died in a random encounter. My first ever character death as a GM, and I was like, okay, I'm like, I don't want to, I don't want to hand wave it and say it didn't happen. Like that's not the kind of story I want to tell. So instead, I had a NPC uh, that they ran into naturally. I changed his stats that he was capable of bringing the character back, and he spoke to the cleric in the party about it. And the group disliked this bard so much that the cleric, the like neutral good cleric or lawful good cleric, said, "I'll think about it."
We'll pass.
Like I gotta think about if it's really worth having him come back. And this was like not even chapter 3 of Tyranny of Dragons, which for those of you who don't know, I think is the longest pre-written adventure for 5th edition. It's 2 books instead of one. Um, the whole thing. It's the Horde of the Dragon Queen, followed by I think Tyranny of Dragons is the second name of the second book. I think I'm getting the names mixed up. I can look, but so then October. It was October, and that's when I was like, I sat the group down. I was like, look, we can keep playing.
Is this the same AP that they met Tiamat?
That was so. I did end up running it years later for a different group.
Okay,
While we were
that
deployed,
might be what I'm thinking about.
They finished the whole thing.
With
This
at least
original group
the
didn't.
3 characters, 3 other PCs.
Yeah. So then I ended up I canceled that game. I talked to all the players and we decided like, all right, we're going to stop that. It's October. Let's do Curse of Strahd, and that's when I I ran them through that, and I think around the time of Curse of Strahd ended, I was like, these characters are great. Everyone loves their characters. Curse of Strahd only brings you to only brings you to mid levels. So I was like,
Yeah,
let's
10, 9 or 10, I think.
yeah. So I'm like, and the Teldori guidebook from Matt Mercer and Green Ronin Publishing had come out, and I I was like, let's keep this story going. Let's have everyone. Let's keep playing. You guys leave Barovia, and you keep going. So we did that, and that's when we introduced your character, and that's when you came back in, and that was and that was your. So I think your first character in one of my games was a Duragar. You decided
wizard.
you immediately decided to pick a race that's ostracized across
Chaotic evil.
Yeah.
That is worldwide known as chaotic evil.
Yep.
And
you went with, I think, a neutral good one.
Yeah.
Who escaped because me and you had been talking about the Legend of Dritz books and like how great a story that was.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love the backstory that you weaved in for it, though.
And then
your wife's character's sister was the one that helped me escape to the surface.
Not my wife's character. It was one of the characters' sisters. One of the characters was a dwarf barbarian. My wife was a blood hunter in that one. She was the one who made the Batman backstory.
Right. Yeah.
It was Morena. Morena had made a dwarf barbarian, and her sister was a paladin. And we made. So and of course that's who the Duragar came into the game with too. Was the dwarf. And I think you guys met up in Kaimal, which, for anyone who's not familiar with the Taldori setting, is essentially is fantasy Las Vegas. And I think your disguise lasted a day before your character got drunk, and the hat of disguise fell off.
Yeah. Note to all the kids out there: don't drink, even in character.
And then he didn't make it through the whole story.
There's one instance that I will argue about the animate objects, where I told my arrows to go pester the guard because he insulted Morena's character.
I remember that. I don't remember.
Yeah,
I don't remember exactly what happened. I remember you sending arrows to annoy a guard.
I said annoy. You said that it can be interpreted as aggressive.
It's arrows. They're flying magic arrows.
I said annoy, like buzz around.
It's still a flying arrow. Yeah, that wasn't. It was on the sky ship, right? Isn't that when your character?
No, Skyship was whenever.
I believe that's when your wizard died.
One of the power words. It wasn't power word kill.
No, it was it's one of the psychic spells.
Yeah,
this was late. This was late game, so you guys were going up against some pretty. You guys had met. I don't know if you knew it at the time, but you guys had basically met, like the. You guys had known the big bad evil for a while. You just didn't realize that she was, mostly because I made everyone uncomfortable by naming the big bad evil after my newborn daughter. So no one thought that that's who it was going to be.
Yeah,
Everyone
no.
thought that was genuinely like a helpful NPC,
Yeah,
but it
no.
was
I think we actually loved her
yeah,
for
everyone did.
the longest time, and then
But it was a
we were
different.
ended up being on the sky ship, and the most intelligent character ended up having their mind melted because of a
It was
nat one.
Psychic Scream. Psychic Scream. It was a 9th level spell. It was the like essentially the second in command of the evil group that you guys were going up against. Um, that you guys ended up fighting a few times because she kept escaping.
Yeah,
And yeah, she did a Psychic Scream. You did a natural one. It was enough damage to bring you to 0. And Psychic Scream is if the target is killed by the damage, the head explodes.
I would also argue that because of like dual minded, that I would be able to negate at least 10 points of that psychic damage. You
I don't
bastard.
think that was going to save your wizard. It's what, like 8? It's 14d6. I don't think your wizard had that high a health. And then
No.
you brought in who is quite possibly one of my favorite characters I think you've ever made.
Mav Lackman?
The warlock.
Yeah, the warlock,
Warlock.
bounty hunter,
The warlock who presented himself as a fighter.
as a Eldridge Knight.
Yes. To explain why he had some magic. Yeah, I think Mav was probably one of my favorite characters you've ever made. I know he definitely had some of the most memorable scenes.
Yeah, we had to talk back and forth quite a bit because of the Eldridge identifications and because of his patron, and to set me straight on communications between patrons, or to the patron.
Well, I know the big thing was that you had gone with the
Hexblade, Pact of the Blade.
Yep, and then you also went with not knowing who your patron was. You had just said
yeah.
it was essentially
It was just
a disembodied voice that you had heard.
some random ritual that I wanted to go and interrupt, but then I heard a voice because of my half brother's accusations against him being accompanied with a cult or some sort.
I think it was the cult of the again going into the Taldori setting, the cult of the Whispered One.
Yeah.
Because that is what I ended up doing. I ended up using the cult of the Whispered One, trying to destroy the Divine Gate. I think was what the end game basically was that this woman that had tricked all of you guys was a high-ranking member of the cult of the Whispered One, who, because we had done it, we had done the story having been not knowing what season 2 of Critical Role was going to be. We had done it. It was set. I forget. It wasn't super long. I think we had done it like a couple years after the end of Critical Role season 1, where I'm not going to, for anyone who is watching it, but I had set it to where essentially it was someone trying to undo the end of the season 1 of Critical Role. Because I know me, you, West, yeah, like half of the players in our group were
more than half the party.
We're all huge Critical Role fans.
Yeah,
and we had all caught on years late, so we were binging it.
Yep.
And I had at least caught up, thanks to night shifts and gate duty on a military base. I had caught up and finished it with season 1. So
yeah, no, at this point I was I don't know. I think at this point I was working at I think I was working at the prison, 4 on 4 off.
So fast forward a couple years, actually. Actually, I'm gonna hang on before we get to that.
You're in control.
I want to talk about for that very first campaign with your you had your wizard and you had your warlock. what is your like favorite moment that sticks out from that very first campaign?
Yeah, no doubt. Would be oh dang. Actually, there is no doubt because now it's up between both of the
Yeah.
characters in that first campaign.
I know what mine is, and it's still one of my favorite moments as a storyteller. For because again,
Yours is definitely the cave.
yes, 100%
Yes,
the cave, because
and the other one,
you didn't know who your patron was. That was the first time the party was like, he's not a fighter, like he is not a normal dude.
yeah, yours is definitely the cave. But mine is, I was about to say hands down the cave, but then I was thinking of the rock, where I broke the staff of power
Yep.
with our hex blade.
I didn't even think of that.
Warforged.
I didn't even think of that because not to talk down what you did with breaking the staff of power as a wizard, but when I think of that rock fight, I think of the druids moment.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Maxie played that one
Yeah,
pretty damn well.
Timothy Maxey again, first time GM running it in a Taldori setting. Someone made a druid. I was like, cool, you're on an Aramente.
Actually, he just messaged me like 2 days ago, saying that he was in my neck of the woods.
He's been messaging me. I know he wants to play. He wants to play a game. That is someone that he got the hook in him when we played, and then when I left, no one else picked up running games, and he's wanted to play ever since.
Yeah, I told him like he messaged me like 4 days ago, and I was only able to get back to him like 2 days ago, and I told him, yeah, my bad. I basically eat, work, sleep, and then sometimes play D&D.
Yeah. Because that's one. Because his was the first. The only reason I think of, I mean, the staff of power, awesome. Anytime someone does with the fail safe of that weapon, which for anyone who doesn't know, a staff of power is essentially in Dungeons and Dragons and in Pathfinder. It shows up. It's an immensely powerful staff for a spellcaster, specifically arcane, wizard, something like that, sorcerer. But they can break it. You know, it's a staff. You snap it over your knee, and because of the amount of magic in it, it sets off this explosion.
Yeah, depending on how much is not expended from it, how many charges expended,
and how far you are from the person who does it.
Oh,
and I remember, that changes how many dice of damage you take. And I remember, so you guys were in the elemental plane of air, and I threw everything at you guys. I threw a rock, I threw a tornado, because it was coming to the close of Maxie's.
I think we were about leaving. Yeah, I think we were just about done. Yeah. And then here comes the rock out of almost nowhere.
Yeah, as storm's approaching, so you guys are fighting it. Something happens to the.
Were you doing the traveling dice roll rule, where roll dice and then 1 to 2, nothing happens. 2 to 4, something else.
I think so, but I think I rolled in advance. Like I rolled before the session, so that way I could plan.
Yeah, I kind of figured.
I did a lot less. I tried to do a lot less improv back then. Now half my games are improv. Like you should see my session notes of planning for these Vampire the Masquerade games. I was like, this is what it's usually. It's usually
plan for that.
Yeah, it's usually this is what's going to happen at the start of the game, and
then
after that, it's just I literally write in my notes. I literally write like fuck it. We'll see. I've made my NPCs. I know where they are. I know what they're doing. It's basically just seeing who you guys bump into or interact with. But yeah, so the rock, and yeah, what happened? It was something happened to Marina, the barbarian. Something happened to her that made her confused, and she started attacking you guys, and she was destroying the party. On top of the rock.
It was just the rock only. Was it happened to be a cursed battle axe?
Yes, that's what it was. Yes. Okay, it was I forget the name of it, but it's a battle axe that, yes, it causes. I'm sure I can find it. I have D&D Beyond open right now.
Whenever they go into a rage, they
It was
get
something.
confusion,
It wasn't a homebrew item. It's a specific item. I'm just blanking on the name of it.
I can't believe I remember that.
Yeah, I can't either.
Here, while you look that up, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to step away. I've already popped the cork.
I gotta think of the name of this battle axe. If anyone who's watching knows, please. Oh, that's. Turns out if you just type battle axe, by the way, into D&D Beyond, that's all that pops up. Is that game rules, equipment, magic items? That's what I'm looking for. Axe. What? It was Berserker axe. When he gets back, I gotta tell him. So it's the Berserker axe. So if anyone who's watching, here I'm gonna hide him till he gets back, so we're not just. Yeah, the Berserker axe, which is it's a +1 attack and damage, and then you also get +1 for every level that you've had for your health. But as long as you're whenever a hostile creature damages you while the axe is in your possession, you go make a wisdom saving throw. Where you have to, and then if you fail, you go, per the text, you go berserk. Here, actually, for anyone who's watching, I'm actually going to post. I'll post the D&D Beyond link to the weapon. I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but I found it. It's called the Berserker axe.
Yeah, it has something to do with entering rage or whenever rage ends or something like that.
So it actually has nothing to do with a barbarian, but it's a +1 axe, but it's also cursed. And whenever you're damaged, you make a wisdom save or you go berserk. And while you're berserk, you have to use your action to attack the nearest creature to you. And that's what she had gotten. The barbarian had gotten injured, had gotten hurt by the rock, but the rock did like a flyby, hurt her. She failed the wisdom save, and then just started attacking you guys because the rock was nowhere close to you.
Yeah, no, she was messing up. At least she was the tank and the damage dealer. Other than, I think I had me and.
My wife's character was the Blood Hunter.
Blood Hunter, and then we had a Hexblade Warlock Warforged?
No. So
no,
that party was
another session.
I think so. Because you guys had yourself, who was a wizard.
Yep.
You had the Blood Cleric.
Blood Cleric. Yep.
That was Alana. You had my wife, Carolyn, who was the Lupine, the Were-Tiger.
Were-Tiger Blood Hunter.
Blood Hunter. You had West, Robert, who was the Gunslinger Fighter.
Gunslinger.
The Druid, and then the Barbarian. There were 6 people.
There was somebody at the front of the rock, and It
was probably the Blood Hunter, probably Ember, the Blood Hunter.
I think so.
So, but yeah, I remember you had basically, as a wizard, gotten on the rock's back and snapped the staff.
And I was like, just on its beak.
And we rolled, because with the Staff of Power, you roll to basically
like
either...
eight or so charges left.
Not even the damage. I was talking about, so you either roll to see if the person who breaks the staff is going to take the damage or be teleported to a different plane.
Oh,
that's what you ended up in Gehenna.
Yeah.
A plane of chaotic evil.
Yeah, and I was like, I have no clue where I'm at yet. I'm gonna
Yep.
stealth wherever I can.
Yep. So
And then
then,
somehow I got a magic scroll of gate because of a wish
yes.
spell. A one of the 3 remaining wish spells that, um, dang it, Marina's character that
Yep.
she wished for in her sleep because DM ruled it.
Yeah. Because I had no idea how to get you back.
Yeah,
I spoke with her about it to make
DM
sure she was
ruled that
okay with me using one
while
of
in her
her.
sleep she was like, "Bring him back," and you were like, "Okay, we'll do that."
But yeah, it was that, and then the cave scene that we were talking about. Again,
Oh
still one of
yes,
my favorite ones.
yeah,
So you
I
got
would definitely put that up with contestant for one of the first. So, Pact of the Blade, and Hexblade Warlock, Pact of the Blade. So, Eldritch Invocations, you get to choose at that level. I think I had just chosen Devil Sight, where you can see through through see through darkness, even if it's magical. And I chose a spell through Eldritch Invocation with not Eldritch Invocation. It's been too long. Where I get to choose a higher level spell that's higher than 5th level, and I think it was Dark Toil or something like that, where create a 20-foot sphere of darkness that you can hear sickening whispers. And so in this little cave that was probably like not even half that radius, probably like a 10 by 10 that ended in a dead end, decided to tell everyone to go ahead and hold up at the mouth of the cave. Of course, I was in the middle of the initiative and nobody else listened, so I think our death cleric, death, help me out,
the
Marina's
blood.
character.
No, she was the barbarian. It was Alana was the blood cleric, and it's because someone else was I think it was maybe Ember, the blood hunter, was unconscious in the cave, so she stayed.
She went unconscious because of the dark toils or whatever spell that was.
Yeah, yeah, you guys were in a cave, um, and you got ambushed. Basically, um, you got ambushed by these essentially assassins. I can't remember what creatures I was using.
What drew us in was the cries of like a child or
Mhm.
an innocence.
Yeah. So then you guys, yeah, it was someone was unconscious. I believe it was Ember, the blood hunter, and the blood cleric's like, I'm not leaving her. And she also had the ability to see. I think she had true sight. So she stayed, and you did. I forget the. I can find the name of the spell, but you cast a spell that creates this like pitch, this essentially like dome of pure darkness with something that
Yep.
hurts them while in it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
like tentacles or sickening
yeah.
whispers or something like that that deals damage to them.
So you had done that while you were doing like the hexblade thing of like hex teleport to
Um,
him with the spear. But then that was the first time you and now the cleric saw a clue as to who your patron was, because this it wasn't sickening whispers; it was the shadows morphing into these draconic like maws. Yes, yeah, yeah. It's ever something. Um, but it's yeah, so instead of like turning into like these whispers, it was these draconic maws that were lashing out and like literally tearing these people apart.
yeah, I only remember the definition of the spell. I
Yeah,
forgot how
but
you flavor text it.
so yeah, you and then that was the first time because you had no idea who your patron was. You had just heard voices up to that, a single voice up to that point.
Yeah,
So and then yeah, the cleric was seeing it for the first time with you, and it was this like draconic shadow that was tearing people apart. And while the whole time you're like teleporting back and forth, the cleric is pretty much reviving the blood hunter, telling her to run. The blood hunter is moving and then taking damage and immediately passing out again.
Yeah,
So the cleric was just
she
keeping
went
her,
down
trying
at
to,
least twice.
yeah, the cleric was just following after her, trying to keep her alive and like keep moving. Meanwhile, the gunslinger, which was
The
Robert,
gunslinger was actually
was just standing outside the
he
cave
was
with
just
his
like,
guns out,
all
just
right,
screaming
I
like,
can't
what
do
the
nothing.
hell's going on in there? All he hears is screaming. I think one of the assassins escaped and ran out of the shadows, like terrified.
At least two of them.
And these were like these like highly trained, like Shadowfell like assassins, and they came peeling out terrified of what they were running from, to where the gunslinger's like, all right, there's something weird going on in there, as he dropped both of them. Yeah, there was that. Then there was I'm trying to think of all the, so you, those were your two characters for that one. And then there was Fail.
Oh yeah, I love the backstory. Even though I was not, I don't have any history with the Curse of Strahd, but I love that you tied it into their hate of me.
Yes.
Hate of my character afterwards.
So yeah, Fail was, I moved from Maryland to my next duty station in Hawaii, and I ran a game with my wife, you, and two people that I had known in Maryland who also were in Hawaii. My buddy Josh and his wife, and Josh and his wife, they left. They PCS'd. They moved duty stations, and then so I was like, all right, I don't want the, like, we're having fun. I'm about to go overseas for 6 months, but I'm gonna have internet the whole time. I'm like, how hard can it be to manage a campaign for only two people? It's actually super difficult to make the challenge, to fix the challenge ratings. Because I know there was numerous times I threw way too much at a ranger and a rogue. I think like you guys went unconscious like numerous times. But then
it was still
oh,
fun,
it was still, yeah, I still had a great time. And then while I was doing that, I also ran. I was running because I wasn't home. I wasn't around my family. I was just deployed. So I ran a group through all of Tyranny of Dragons, and then I ran them through Curse of Strahd again. And I had that Curse of Strahd game link into the one with you guys. And you had made the, it's hit or miss depending on the GM. It's either, a GM's dream or their nightmare. You made a character who is amnesiac, had no memory of his past.
Yeah, and mainly to go off with my intelligence dump stat.
Yes. Yep, you made a rogue who could not tie his shoes, to put it lightly.
And then I think we both decided to go with more of like the ADHD. Mm-hmm. Why it was more of a dump stat for him, and we just went with more of an ADHD type. So I misspoke double languages quite a bit, and then so on and so forth.
Yep.
Up until the Crown of Intelligence, where I could actually communicate more effectively.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, the party got a Crown of Intelligence instead of giving it to like a spellcaster or anything like that. They're like, just put it on the rogue. Like it's unbearable dealing with his intellect.
Yeah.
So they put it on you.
Role playing it was unbearable as well.
Yeah, I know. Me and you had talked about like what would happen if.
Let me go grab my phone because that spell is bothering the crap out of me right now.
I'm sure I can find it. I almost wonder if I have that character still. I don't think I do. My characters. I think I got rid of a lot of my old characters.
Sorry, that
Oh,
that
no, you're
one
good.
spell is just really bugging the crap out of me.
The shadow one.
Yeah,
I I can't remember which one it was exactly. It creates like a field.
yeah, it's like a 20-foot sphere, and you hear sickening whispers and like tentacles sloshing or something like that. I gotta read the flavor
Maddening
text.
Darkness.
There we go.
Maddening Darkness, 8th level spell. Yeah, it was one of your Mystic Archaeums.
That.
Yep. Magical darkness spreads from a point you choose within range to fill a 60-foot sphere until the spell ends. A creature with dark vision can't see through this darkness. Non magical lights, as well as light created by a spell of 8th level or lower, can't illuminate. Shrieks, gibbering, and mad laughter can be heard within the sphere. Whenever a creature starts its turn in the sphere, it makes a wisdom saving throw, taking 8d8 psychic damage.
And then, isn't there a bit in it where even seeing through magical darkness, you still can't see through it, or something like that?
No,
But we
it
both had to
just
talk about it because I took that Mystic Arcanum plus Devil Eyes at the same time. That kind of would.
I think you had just chosen Devil Eyes. It's you can see with dark vision. Without dark, as long as you have something that can pierce magical darkness, you could see, but dark vision doesn't. So I think the only reason the cleric could is because she cast True Sight.
True Sight.
Yeah, she
But
cast
because
True
of
Sight on herself.
Devil Vision, I'm pretty sure it was can see through darkness, even magical
Including,
darkness, up into a certain amount.
It's like 100. It's far. It's like
120 or something like that.
Yeah, but yeah. Then you made
Okay, sorry,
fail.
it was
You're
bothering
good.
me.
No, you're good. Yeah, then you made fail the rogue, and then that campaign just kind of fell apart mostly from me. It was mostly me changing a whole bunch of stuff constantly because it was like a completely homebrew campaign.
It's still not bad for your first attempt.
No, it wasn't so much the homebrew that fell apart as much as it was me wanting to do different systems. Because we had started it with 5e, and then I got the Pathfinder second edition core rule book. And I read it and I loved it.
And then we tried to convert from 5e to the
To
Pathfinder
that,
2e.
which worked for most people. I know the cleric, Ryan, lost a lot. Because he had done a grave cleric and he switching to the cleric in Pathfinder wasn't that was like super underwhelming as much as the god he was following was a true neutral deity because it was the god of death or goddess of death. And there's a lot of spells in Pathfinder for clerics that you can't use if your deity is neutral because it involves like invoking the sense of law that your god holds or the sense of good or evil or chaos. And as a true neutral cleric, he lost a lot of that. So we done that, and then I started. I was just reading so much about like all the different stuff with Pathfinder that I started trying to change too many things, and to the point where like it got to the point where I was like just trying to piece together the story. I remember I sat down one day, and I was like, "All right, I got to get the story ready for these guys this week. I have no idea what I'm going to do." And that's what made me, I think I messaged you guys and I was like, I was like, hey, I think I'm kind of burnt out on this game. Luckily the whole group was like, yeah, no, that's totally cool. Like that's totally understandable.
Honestly, I think no offense to you, I think we kind of all were because of so many different changes and everything when we just needed to start new.
Yeah. So then we switched to Age of Ashes, the first published Pathfinder, second edition book, which we were still running up until a couple months ago. And this was 2 years, I think we've been doing it.
Yeah.
And then the only reason I still have everything for that saved. I still have it on my virtual my Foundry. I know we took a break because my wife, we just had a newborn, and my wife's not able to play, and she's been playing it with you guys ever since. And I messaged the group and I was like, "Hey, do you guys want me to?" I'm like, "We got two options here. We can either I can either remove her character from the story, which I can do organically,
No,
given where you're
that's
at
not
in the
fair to
story."
her.
And that's what you guys all said. You guys were all like, "No, we'll play something else."
Yeah, we'll
And
just play something
I
else. Put that one on
I think
hiatus.
I think I told you guys this. I told her that, and she cried.
Yeah, no.
She was so.
We respect her way too much.
So then that's when we started Deadlands. The
Yeah.
which I think when the four of you, yourself, Ryan, Taryn, and Riley,
Can we not talk about this?
made your characters, you were not expecting me to be like, "Hey, let's stream this," because you all just made hooligan characters.
No, all but one of us. Okay, all but two of us.
Who? Hugh Jazz?
Me
Yeah,
and
what's your
Armin
character's
Hammer.
name? Yeah, what's your character's name?
Hugh Jazz and
Yeah.
Armin
Yeah.
Hammer.
You can't even say it with a straight face. Just because you didn't make your character insane like the other two did.
Don't make me bring in his brother. Bend over.
But
Yeah, no. I was thinking about making him a goof off character, and then I met the rest of the party, at least two of the other party, and I was like, no, we have to have a voice of reason. I'll venture a little bit more away from what I was thinking.
a voice of reason who has a business, who has a reason to be there. Armin is a voice of reason, but there's no reason. Like he is so out of place on this cattle drive. He chose for his character flaws in the Savage World system. You choose flaws and merits, or and flaws and edges.
Edges.
Merits is vampire. For his flaws, he chose like obese and like driven to like where he has a single goal, but his goal has nothing to do with being a cowboy. His goal is to be a good cook.
A good cook, yeah. And the first thing that I could think of whenever he started to go off on that last backstory was SpongeBob. He made a SpongeBob.
Yep. He made a fry cook. He made a SpongeBob who just wants to be a fry cook. Now he's out in the middle of the. I think you guys were. Where did I say you guys were last?
Colorado.
Yeah, you guys are getting closer to Colorado, and he's just been trying to be a cook, but he's gotten in a shootout with the army, with zombies,
and
snakes.
Then now we stopped halfway in between a.
Yeah, you guys are in a combat.
Whatever we're fighting against, but I do remember right now bats.
There was bats, but they weren't doing anything as much as a distraction.
Okay,
but it looks like a Native American tribe.
Right.
I have to catch myself because of how
I don't have my notes in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah, the book does not refer to them as a Native American tribe. But again, I think that was one of the disclaimers I put out in the first thing, is they write the book to be historically accurate with how they refer to people.
Please no suing.
Yeah. I didn't write it, all right? It's not a homebrew, all right? And then...
Yeah, no. I think that was so far everything that's been fun, other than somehow my character becoming a vampire.
Not a vampire. You're a zombie.
A walking corpse that likes to eat raw meat.
Yeah, Harrowed, I think is the thing.
Harrowed.
Yep. And then you've joined a bunch of my my professional games, but a bunch of them kind of fell apart just with me getting out of the military.
Oh man, yeah, one that I'm going to miss to attempt to play was the Cobalt Swashbuckler.
Yes, in Strength of Thousands, the Pathfinder
Strength of
adventure.
Thousands, the
Yep. You
Harry
made the
Potter of adventure
that,
paths.
and you made the only non-spellcaster enrolled in a magic school.
Hey, you said it was okay.
It
And
is because
I, fig-
you get free spells.
and I figured that a party of spellcasters might need a tank at some point, so let's go with the Swashbuckler.
You know, and then yeah, I messaged you when I started doing my new this Vampire the Masquerade system, which has been a lot of people have been. I've actually been able to. That's actually grown pretty quickly, and I have to give
That's what it
credit
looks like.
to
Definitely three
three
different coteries.
games in like a month. So three different groups of at least four. One group of five. Now two groups of five, and potentially a third group of five. Your group might be getting a fifth player.
We'll see how that goes.
And
I
then
think our group will be most welcoming, yes. But we'll
yes,
see
no,
how the second group of five, see how that goes.
yeah, all the groups are. I mean, the first group of five started as a group of five. Like they had five before the first game or their session zero. But I know, yeah, you made Ganriki, which everyone will be meeting this upcoming Thursday on our first stream of it on the 21st. The Nosferatu.
Ugly son of a bitch.
I think he's a handsome man. And I think I can
It's
pull
still
off.
no more worse than my my favorite NPC though.
Ernesto.
Ernesto.
I made a mistake. Ernesto is now an NPC in two of the three games, and I'm gonna
But
lose
that
my.
kind of
I'm
makes
gonna
sense. That's kind of makes sense that because he is the second hand to
Yes, yeah. He's the right
yeah
hand of the Baron, so it makes sense. It's going to destroy my voice.
yeah. You got
Yeah,
plenty of water?
I do. I grab water before each one. So yeah, here is let me see, share screen. Here is Ganriki.
Nah,
This is
he's not that great. I don't even have my background in there yet or my backstory in there.
yeah. He is
Like I have it in my head, I just don't have it typed out.
there he is.
Oh, he's so pretty.
I have to give a shout out to what's his name? Sorry, I'm terrible with names. This is I pulled this from DeviantArt. There's an artist on there named Bagrada, Bagrada. He's
Hey, thank you,
done
Mr. Beretta or
he's
Mrs.
done a lot of amazing art on there of Vampire the Masquerades, The Witcher, Dragon Age, Red Faction, um, and I pulled this one is the Gary Golden from I don't know if he's I think he's a character from Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines if I remember right.
I don't know. I just remember you giving me like four different selections or two to start off with, and then I was like,
Well, yeah, you had liked one, but then you
depending.
said you didn't want him to be you wanted him to be the opposite of what most Nosferatu are, which is
Yeah,
the
more of
emaciated. You wanted him
the
to
loose
be
skin.
yeah, you wanted him to be a pudgy Nosferatu.
Yeah, just to fit the backstory I was going for.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find just so I can give him the right credits. Yeah, so he is the Gary he's from Vampire the Masquerade's Bloodlines. He's the Primogen of Hollywood, and this 3D art images that is from Bagrada on DeviantArt.
Well, still, either way, thank you for the art, because that's a few things off what I was thinking of, but that was the
Yeah.
closest thing.
No, I use a lot of his artwork for my characters. and what's the other website? One of the players told me about Artbreeder. The Artbreeder website is another great one because you can just create like randomly generated pictures, and you can kind of like adjust and minimize things. You kind of there's like sliders, but yeah, I know you've been, yeah, you've been, you and Genriki have been
Yeah,
currently,
this is actually my first character to actually use my favorite nickname or character name.
and
So,
your character made the news,
oh
the local human news.
yeah.
Yep.
In my defense, I didn't like I didn't like those guys
Yeah, I know there is a recent report in game of a double of two homicides that
yeah.
happened on different parts of town with a similar MO. So to humans, it seems like there might be a spree or serial killer, but it's just two people who died of blood loss with no blood at the crime scene.
No blood there.
So
Um, my victim ended up dying on the ambulance because of a.
no,
Yeah,
you never
y'all
called.
might be able to find out later
No,
on
you didn't call 911. Your victim was the one that was they found him dead at the scene.
because of the neighbor. I may visit that neighbor later on.
Yep. The
We'll
neighbor
see.
reported what sounded like a struggle, and then they found evidence that the victim was part of a hacking group that's been doing like credit card scanners and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
the low level.
yeah. So now they're digging into the other victim's life to see if he's connected.
Yeah, yeah. No, after that report, I don't be surprised if he's laying low for a little bit and not going after his coworkers, ex coworkers.
Not a terrible idea. Excuse me. But all right. So big question. Out of 6 years of tabletop gaming, what's your favorite story?
You
Number
got to unload.
one,
You have to unload that
yep. Number one favorite, like, doesn't even necessarily have to be something with one of your characters. Just the number one thing that pops into your mind.
No, I would have to go with Fail's backstory. I know it's doesn't have to be my characters, but I enjoyed that I didn't actually play the Curse of Strahd,
Yeah, you
but you
never. I don't
threw
think.
that in there towards the end. Oh, hey, by the way, his actual identity is this, and then all the other characters are like immediately out of character, hated my character.
Yep. So for anyone who's played Curse of Strahd, because you actually never have,
No,
um, so the way I linked Curse of Strahd into a different game is kind of I used like a similar mechanic to how the Feywild works in D&D, where you can kind of leave the Feywild and you could end up like essentially like there could be a weird time jump.
the Matt Mercer effect, or is that
No,
more of
that's
a?
the Matt Mercer effect is people expecting their GMs to be professional voice actors.
I just meant his
Um,
rollable table on the
oh
wild.
no, that's an actual table. That is an actual written table with the Feywild. Um, of when
Sorry,
you
Matt
leave the
Mercer.
Feywild. Of when you leave the Feywild, there is an actual mechanical table. If you don't have, if you're not an elf or
From the fake creature.
yeah. So yeah, well, time seems to pass normally in the Feywild. Characters might spend a day there and realize upon leaving, less or more time has elapsed elsewhere.
Hmm.
So, I did that, but I kind of I kind of used it a little differently with Barovia, since Barovia was so far in like was stuck so far in the past. essentially people could pop up randomly at other times prior to the present. So you could find out, a Barovian that you knew in the Curse of Strahd campaign has actually been out in the real world for like 10 years prior to when you emerged from Barovia. And what we did with your character was in the game that I ran for the group that I ran through Curse of Strahd, they they defeated Strahd,
Right.
but they uh, they didn't defeat his
Henchman.
manservant.
His
Yeah,
like second hand or something
yeah,
like that.
Ranadin, who is a like violently murderous elf. So he escaped, ended up in the real world, and I forget how long I had said he had been there, but enough
At,
time where he was away from the. Um,
at
was it no?
least whatever the time frame may have been, I knew that he was an infant at one point again,
Mhm.
and then grew up with a nomad tribe, and that nomad tribe decided to leave him
Yeah,
as an orphan in one of the main cities.
yeah, yeah. Because he asked them to. Because essentially, once I had it to where once he was separated from the darkness that pervades Barovia. I was about to call it Romania. Barovia. He started like essentially having like severe like pangs of guilt for some of the things he had done, and eventually he essentially came to this nomadic tribe who um, essentially like wiped his memory and in a sense reincarnated him back as a child and then sent him off somewhere else. And
Which
the
caused
last
the
thing
amnesia.
the last thing he had told them was that he wanted to start over because his life was such a failure. And then that was your character was essentially the reborn Ranadin, and it came out right before. And this is still to this day something that I regret, that it came out right before we ended up ending that campaign. But yeah, and then also all the characters, because they were all with you when you got this revelation, all the ones who had been in Barovia now learned that your character was also Ranadin, and that was the cleric, the fighter. It was so the cleric, the fighter. I can't remember everyone else's character. Um, it was at least two or three of them had been in Barovia. I know some of them when we switched from D
Monk?
and D.
Or did he accidentally pass away later on?
No, so the monk was there, but he wasn't in Barovia.
Okay.
Riley, who played the monk, he didn't want to play his Barovia character in the new game, mostly because his Barovia character was essentially disabled because of
Yeah.
choices made in the Amber Temple. Um, but yeah, no, that was one of those times where I was like sitting there working on stuff, and when that idea came to me, it was it was one of those where I couldn't find a pen and paper fast enough.
No, I absolutely love those. As far as character building wise, I'd
Yeah.
rather have a blank slate and let the DM drive me to figure out who my character was,
Mm-hmm.
and that is one of the most memorable. That's why, hands down, fail is I still have not deleted him on D&D Beyond. I still have him up.
What's funny is I still have. I was just looking on D and D Beyond. I still have a character named Karsis Larander, who is he's archived, but he's a very high level rogue that I was going to have originally before I came up with the Ranadin storyline. When I had originally made this character, he
Right.
was going to be a family member of Fail. Um, but then, yeah, but this was I came up with him when I was running it with just you and my wife while I was
Right.
doing the other group through Tyranny of Dragons. And then that's kind of one of the fun things with the kind of very open-ended characters is if something else kind of pops up or like new
Oh yeah.
players come where I'm like, oh, this actually would work even better as long as it doesn't like as long as I don't have to like go back and redact things that have happened to your character up to that point. It's one of the things that makes character with especially amnesia. It's very you can kind of work with it to make new things.
Most of the time, you can always count on me to give you a lot of leeway. I will give you like 3 or 4 hard points that I want to keep, and then
Mm-hmm.
you have the author's privileges on take me as you will.
Make it sound dirty.
There's not enough left. And then
I was gonna ask who your favorite character was, but I think it seems like it's Fail.
no, actually, favorite character was Maeve Lackman's brother. He was on the run for 40 plus years, and he actually ended up being the head of the intelligence agency that was secretive.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember the name.
I can't remember. Cesar, I think.
His name? Do I saw?
Yeah, it started with a S, and I remember there being a Z in there somewhere.
I know he was. I know he was a half orc.
It was either the half brother or
he was a half
squire, the squire that was going along with Lackman.
I remember him.
The half elf.
Because he ended up, I think he ended up marrying one of the other players. He ended up marrying because the Morena's.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, Morena's barbarian did not make it to the end of the story as well, and she then made a drunk monk.
Yeah, I think it's. No, I would definitely have to say it was Lackman's half brother, the half orc.
It was. I mean, that was a fun one because it was the kind of exploring the. It's one of the fun things I get to do. I do with all the NPCs is I get to mess around with different classes and stuff.
Yeah,
and
I think all I said was that he had a bastard half brother.
Mm-hmm. So I went with he was a half orc.
Did we go with the Cavalier? Unorthodox the father being unfaithful, or
I think so.
I think we went with the unorthodox half orc way, and then and then him being accused of occultism, and then it actually being them family actually trying to pin their
occultism on him.
Yep. And that
he
turned
was a Cavalier. So that's a class I hadn't gotten to mess around with before.
Cavalier or Marshal?
No, he was the Cavalier. I remember specifically because he was, if he had to originally he had planned to, if you weren't going to listen to him, he was going to fight you 1-on-1, and he was not going to do it mounted, which a lot of his people were not okay with because that was putting him at a severe disadvantage, at least in their eyes. But he had more than a few magic items. Because, again, this was towards the end of the game. So everyone you guys were running into was pretty well off.
Yeah, no. Lackman at that point, I mean, even at a younger age, Cesar or whatever his brother's name was, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it was Cesar. But he had always been bested within lance combat. Mm-hmm. So even with his warlock abilities, I think he was still, to this day, too afraid to even go against his brother. Because it had gotten to the point where he was being bested every single time by Cesar from just Lackman trying to train him, even though
Yeah.
there was like a 20-year gap or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So even at that point, with the um, bonded weapon, not bonded weapon, I can't remember the name, the
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Hexblade Warlock bonded weapon. Even with all that, I doubt Lackman would have wanted to have that end up in hostility. He would much rather have get the truth from what he heard from his parents, and then what he would hear from his brother whenever he finally tracked him down, and that it just happened to be like 40 years down the road or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, this dude was like 72, 76. I don't know, like late in his life.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, because you made a human, and that was one of the things we talked about. Was
To make up for his dump stat in dexterity.
Yep.
I think he had like a 6 dexterity, so I went with heavy heavy armor.
Because I had been reading, because I remember me and you were talking about it. Because I remember at that point, when they were doing Curse of Strahd, he didn't end up staying with the group. But in Curse of Strahd, they had a rogue in the group that for that first group I ran through Curse of Strahd, and that player, I forget his first name. Military again. I just knew everyone's last name. It was Boswell.
Yeah, it's impossible now.
He was a huge fan of Pathfinder and kept telling me to like look into it. And I remember one night I did, and I remember that was one of the things that popped up. That was one of the things that popped up on Pathfinder that I really liked, and it's an older versions of D&D too. Is age, like young, middle aged, and older. I forget how they mature. I think is how they phrase it.
Was this
changes the mechanics of like gives you a bonus to certain stats and a minus to others.
Was this when we were getting into Glass Cannon?
No, this is still back in Maryland. I didn't start running Pathfinder at that point. He had just told me to look in. He just kept telling. He preferred this was before second edition for Pathfinder even came out.
Yeah, no. I know for a while we both around the same time was watching Glass Cannon, and then Lark. I think Lark the Orc.
Yep, Lark
I can't remember one.
Lark
he was pretty fair in age, and I think that mechanic came into play quite a few times.
Yeah, it's where he actually had a minus on some of his physical stats.
Yeah,
or he'd taken a penalty.
That's what I was remembering. If that might have been what was influencing as far as that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think at this point we're at about an hour and a half. So.
Yeah. I didn't even see chat. The Nosferatu.
Yep.
Yeah, I tried to not make him as ugly at that point.
He's a younger Nosferatu. I feel like that is. No, mechanically wise, I mean, it actually doesn't get into it super mechanically, at least in V5. But it talks about it in the lore aspect that Nosferatu have one of, if not the most painful embrace because of what happens to them physically during the embrace. But it talks about like how it doesn't necessarily like continue happening, but usually like older Nosferatu are more and more disfigured.
Yeah, no. I mean,
I don't know if they have the worst embrace, in my opinion. There is a clan that's not actually in it. So they're not gone. Lore wise, they are still around in 5th edition, but they haven't added them in any of the actual official books. There's the Gargoyle clan, which they are physically disfigured, just like the Nosferatu, but they also
Right.
lose all memories of their mortal life when they're embraced,
Oh, do they like? I haven't
and
read that.
they
Do
grow
they?
wings.
Do they still start at the same humanity?
They do. They're lore wise, they're a very interesting clan because of what's happened to them. They're not, as far as the lore of Vampire the Masquerade goes, they are not descendant of Cain the way other kindred are. They were during the Dark Ages, prior to the Camarilla's founding, the governing body of kindred that united the clans. Prior to that, there was a war going on. Well, I mean, a war with everyone was essentially saying like, kill the Tremere, kill the wizards, because they killed one of the antediluvians of Salu, of Salat. Um, they kill, and they weren't descendant of Cain. They were mortals who essentially made themselves into vampires through magic. So a lot of the kindred didn't like them. They went to war with them, and the Tremere were like, "Well, we're getting our asses handed to us. Let's do what we do best." And they started to take the body parts. They started to essentially torture, mutilate, and create Frankenstein monsters out of the Gangrel, the Nosferatu, and the Simitsi clans, and turn them into gargoyles. Um, they were supposed to stop. Whether
It's
or not they
supposed to.
did, yeah. How much of it actually stopped when there was essentially a peace
Okay.
treaty, but um, but yeah, the gargoyles kind of rebelled against them, and now they're able to embrace on their own, but they're super selective about who they embrace because of the whole memory loss thing, because they know when they embrace someone, they're taking their mortal life from them forever.
That, and also, it also I can see it also being part of personality at that given moment, because they can be easily a loose cannon.
Mm-hmm.
Like a shut-in can easily become a dictator.
Yeah, that's something that the gargoyles actually, it mentions it in like their lore, that's something they balance a lot, is they could end up embracing someone because of who they think they are, like they've been watching them,
Right.
and then when they embrace them with all of those memories gone, you're essentially embracing who they really are, and you end up with just the exact opposite of who you were trying to embrace. But no, the gargoyles are cool. They haven't added them in V5. They're still around as far as I know. There's a supplement for them on the Storytellers Vault, which is like the DM's Guild version for Vampire the Masquerade. I think all those websites are linked, um, and they had them in V20. So maybe they'll add them eventually. I know right now the books that are coming out, I don't think are going to be adding any new clans. The next books that are coming out are the Second Inquisition and um, for Vampire, I think that's the next book coming out is Second Inquisition, and then there's the Hunters book coming out, but that's a whole different system technically. But yep, so that is where we will end for tonight. Thank you for
Hey,
hanging
it's
out
not a
with me
problem.
for the last hour and a half, answering my questions and reminiscing
Hour and a half.
about tabletop games with me.
Yeah, no. I've been going through one of my work friends. He's real big into the tabletop as well, and
Mm-hmm.
like one of the he's kind of commissioned me into trying to make a BBEG for him, and first thing I could think of was like an Eldritch Knight Warlock Pact, Hexblade Warlock.
I mean
I've been
the
trying to figure out how to make that work, but
the
the
the the big bad evil guy in that first campaign was a warlock. It was an undying one.
yeah, no, I've been trying to make that work for him and see how he might like my ideas for it, but I I can't seem to make it work out. But it's all because of all because of you, because of how much fun I had with Mr. Lackman.
It was a very, very fun character.
And so now Warlocks are, at least as part of 5e, are one of my favorite characters or builds. But yeah, if at any point that y'all have any questions or would like to join us, please feel free to join us for Vampires the Masquerade. We're also streaming Blood Drive for about how many more weeks now until we finish? Probably at least another month.
Yeah,
I would say at least another month.
Yeah, at least probably another 1 or 2 months. It's not a super long story, and certain parts of it go by very quick.
And then here pretty soon, like I said, Vampire the Masquerade. At least 2 of the coteries agree to it so far.
The 2 Anarchs, the Camarilla coterie does not want to do streaming, so the 2 Anarch coteries will be streamed, and they are polar opposites. There's your coterie, which is all fledglings, and the other coterie, which has a fledgling, but the rest of them are all ancillas.
Oh.
And they have like a massive domain. Like they've been in the city and part of the Anarchs for a long time.
Cheaters.
One of them was actually mentioned to you, I think.
Yeah. Yep. I have to bring up my notes, but I planned on talking to her during the meeting.
Yep, Elysium coming up.
Yeah, I plan on talking to them just for getting their food for thought and their information, and plus also to give connections to other coteries if they want to interact between each other.
Yeah. It'll be...
and then hopefully later on, depending on how other things pan out, hopefully we might be able to bring out more tabletops or whatever else Dylan might want to throw at y'all.
I currently have coming in the mail the Chronicles of Zadia, for anyone who's a fan of the Dragon Prince. I have that book coming to me in the mail because I was part of the pre-order for that. I have, speaking of the picture right behind you, I have
new WOD.
New World of Darkness.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I have the book. I have the book for the picture right behind you coming my way. Here should be soon. I was part of the Kickstarter for that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
The Avatar ones, it's very different. It's different, but it's cool. It's you don't really even choose a. It's more like choosing a theme with a class based on that theme.
Hey, if you want a guinea pig, I'll help you out as best I can.
There's one shots I might do for that. Same with the Chronicles of Zadia.
Yeah, just depending on schedule, like usual, but I will usually do the best I can.
Yeah.
Vampire the Requiem.
That's one of the other editions. I think that's
Yeah. All right. Before 5e.
Yeah. 5e is the newest one. It's like chronicle or storyline wise, it's all taking place after Shreknet and the rise of the Second Inquisition, and specifically the fall of London is like one of the big events that leads into 5e.
Yeah, I remember you having a campaign for Fall of London, I think.
Yeah, that just with my schedule going to school and everything, I decided to kind of take that aside and instead do this.
We actually do have a point of contact for the Gangrel.
The Gangrel are still a thing, and they're still my, not to be biased, still my favorite clan.
Yeah, no, I would not want to mess with our point of contact or her group.
You did.
That we
The one you met's actually the rational of the two leaders of the Gangrel, the independent Gangrels. She's the talker. Some of the other groups have met her counterpart. That's why he wasn't around to talk to you guys that night. He was currently busy threatening very high-ranking members of the Camarilla.
Well, I'm glad for that fortunate encounter then.
He has
but
the same.
I would still not want to mess with them.
Yeah, yeah. No, the Gangrel are still my favorite clan. I just like their lore.
But as far as Ganriki goes, after he calls in that favor, most likely he will be going to the Gangrel to help appease him or make sure he doesn't mess up more than what he has at that point, depending on storyline.
Yeah. All right. So we'll end it here for the night. Thank you, everyone, who for tuning in. Again, I'm going to try and probably do this maybe once every other week, if not once a month. Probably reach out to one of the other players from the Deadlands game, or even just one of my other games, depending. I just know all the guys in the Deadlands games would say yes to doing this. Might trying to think of some people who would have some good stories. I know Taryn would.
Johnson. Yeah. I was with Johnson.
Never know someone who's rolled more natural ones than him. So, but thank you for hanging out and talking with me tonight. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed the reminiscing.
Yeah. Again, my name is Dylan, and this is it's been. I got to double check to make sure the name hasn't already been used, but Tabletop Talks is going to be, at least for now, what I'm calling it until I come up with something else. Double checking to make sure that it's not taken, or if it is, at least that it's not copyrighted. I don't know. I don't know how laws work. But tune in. What is it this week? This week Thursday. Yeah, it'll be this upcoming Thursday. It'll be my first Vampire the Masquerade stream, which will be Anarchs of 585 with David and 3 others. So, thanks everyone for tuning in.
And then Friday after that, hopefully we'll be playing Deadlands.
Yep, should be. Unless I get signed up to do a random dinner party again like I did this week that I don't want to go to.
I'll get back to you, but I still think my schedule's good.
Okay. Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, no. We're good.
All right. Well, thank you for joining.
And thank you, Mr. or Mrs. Necro.
Yeah, it's a dude. He's in he's in a D&D game with me. I know him.
I just give him a shout out. You dummy.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Like Dylan was saying, thank y'all for tuning in. If y'all do have any questions, hit up Mr. Dylan, and then he'll do what he do.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
It's been good.